Good afternoon. My name is Matthew Shortsma. I'm a semantic security consultant here at ITS Partners. Today we'll be talking about SEP 12.1 and some of the just some of the features, security features that it offers. Something about me personally. I'm an authorized semantic security consultant. My focus is on security here at ITS. My security solutions that I focus on are Symantec Endpoint Protection, data loss prevention, and PGP, which is just, if you don't know about it, it's encryption. There's also some virtualization and packaging technologies that I'm familiar with, also LTIRS management, some stuff in there. Some quick stuff about ITS Partners. We were Symantec National Partner and Platinum Partner, and we were Symantec Partner of the Year in 2011. We were also LTIRS Partner of the Year for 2 out of the 4 years that the award was given. We're Symantec Master Specialized Partner. Our focus is exclusively on Symantec endpoint management and security solutions. We're based out of the wonderful Grand Rapids, Michigan. We're also what we like to say an engineer-centric organization. Pretty much what that means is just that we're really focused on using and leveraging our engineers and just using them to provide the best services. Some 3 things I want to talk about in SEP 12.1 today is the unrivaled security, blazing performance, and the new build for virtualization. Now, I don't use that term unrivaled security lately. And pretty much all I mean by that is I think it's kind of a 2-part deal. First of all, I do personally believe that it's the best product on the market for security, security management especially. And I'm not just saying that because the numbers actually do back it up. If you don't believe me, don't take my word for it. Go ahead and look at how Symantec works in the security management field and just see how their numbers are and see who the top leader is. You'll see just across the board at Symantec. As far as blazing performance goes, you'll see a lot of improvements on performance since SEP 11. The jump to SEP 12.1 is huge on the management resource side. Personally speaking, again, I have SEP 12.1 installed on this machine right here that I'm using today, and for all I know, it could be scanning right now, and I'll hardly ever notice a resource management problem. It's almost invisible as far as processing power and speed. It's just so fast. There's also a lot of virtualization add-ons in the new SEP 12.1. There's this, we'll be talking about some of it today. We're talking about Insight, cache, and stuff like that. There's also download randomization, scan randomization for virtual clients. Again, we'll be talking about more of about that later. We have some new protection technologies available. Of course, we already said Insight. There's also Semantic Online Network for Advanced Response, also known as Sonar. There's Download Insight. There's Norton Safe Web Light. And of course, there's other advanced security policies. Today, we're going to be focusing on Insight and Download Insight and also Sonar. So quick question, what is Insight? So imagine that we know about every single file in the world today. How many of each of those files exist, and which files are good and which files are bad. So which files are beneficial, which files are harmful. Now imagine we rearrange all those files from left to right, with the bad stuff being on the left and the good stuff being on the right. And let's say we can color code it. So if you see the graphic at the top there, we have bad on the left and good on the right. And is my mouse pointer going to move? Yeah, perfect. You see on the left side here, we have a stack of files, and it's on the far left. And you can see it just goes way further than all the other red stuff over here. We just 2 over here, 2 over here. On the left side, it's a much larger stack. And that's a majority of the bad files. We can easily see where those fall. And on the exact opposite side, you kind of see the same trend. We have a bunch of good files, and you can kind of pile those up over here and pretend these are like good applications or just overall good files that we know exist and are good and beneficial. We know there's no possible way that they're malware. Now, I like that graphic a lot. But what about, I like this one a lot better. And the reason I like it is because it does this, it shows what we like to call the long tail distribution. Here in the middle, you can kind of see this little bit of red line and a little bit of green line, like right here in the middle, they kind of almost fade to nothing. And I like this graphic a lot because it really displays some of the problems in the current threat landscape and how we're really missing a lot of the bad stuff. So you can see over here we have bad files on the left side, and over here we have good files. So we have like IE, and we see Firefox there, stuff that we trust, and generally is stuff we want to run on our network. On the left side there, blacklisting works really well. It's really easy to just say, hey, that's a bad file. Everybody knows it's a bad file. Its fingerprint is a bad file. Let's just go ahead and block it. On the right side there, it's again easy to do whitelisting. It's the opposite. We know a file is good, and we know a program or process is friendly. So why would we block it? Why wouldn't we just give it the access that it needs all the time? And that works just fine for those extremes on this graph. The real problem isn't the extremes. It's this area right here. And unfortunately, neither technology really works that well. You have so many files that fall in that field that you can't really blacklist, you can't really whitelist, because sometimes they're not always good, sometimes they're not always bad. And sometimes it might be like a do-gooder open source program that just has one security flaw in it that's just not good for your network, and you have to block it. And it might not mean to be malware, or they might not mean to be bad, a bad file, but it just acts that way. For this tail, like this long tail is what we call it, this area right here in the middle, we need to find a different technique, and that's where Insight comes in. Insight is leveraged throughout a SEP 12.1 product. There's Download Insight, Scan Less, Sonar, if you guys need a reminder of what that is. That's just Semantic Online Network for advanced response. There's heuristic and collaboration during detection. We'll talk about all that later. But that's pretty much an overview of Insight. Pretty much it uses reputation, prevalence, and age to detect a file and tell you if it's good or bad. So here's how it works. You start off with you build a collection, a network that uses collection to detect if a file is good or bad. And then you use that same collection and rate almost every file on the internet. You can say how old it is, where it comes from, and how it acts. You look for association, so you see it kind of moves this thing on the right side. We keep moving. We check the database during scans. Finally, it comes back, and we can provide actionable data. And you can see that allow, deny, and we say, is it new, is there a bad reputation? Depending on what our criteria are, we can allow or deny that file from working. So we come to that unrivaled security and blazing performance, and that is really why Insight works so well. Is because while we could work without it, it just makes our technologies more powerful. It's not a replacement for antivirus, just flat out. It leverages what it knows and creates just better scan times and uses reputation instead of fingerprinting to better secure your network. To use that exceptional detection. First of all, it blocks malware using community wisdom. I like that word wisdom instead of knowledge. It's not just, hey, we know it's bad, but we can see it trending towards a bad reputation as well. I like that too, the X-ray. I think it's pretty relevant to it ratcheting up resolution of our heuristics and behavior blocking. You can see that picture extracted out of there. I think that's cool. So imagine that just for your entire network. You can see your network like an X-ray, and sometimes it's kind of hard to see stuff, but suddenly you pull that image out, and it's way easier to tell where the bad stuff's coming from. And finally, it kills malware once and for all. So instead of it even getting on your system, it prevents it from even getting that far. So we're going to talk about some behavior analysis and system heuristics. There's Semantic Online Network for Advanced Response, which is just basically called Sonar. I'll be calling it Sonar for the rest of this presentation. So if you're confused about that, that's what it stands for. Which uses suspicious behavior detection and system change detections, such as host file and DNS change detections. It also has this fun thing called tamper protection, which is just it's a process called Symprotect that runs on the client. And pretty much all it does is just say, is somebody trying to turn me off? And you can turn that on and off. It's just a simple switch flip that you just say, hey, I don't want tamper protection on. I do want tamper protection on. It enables Symprotect and stops users or even malicious software from stopping the SEP client from running. We like to say it's the next generation in the heuristics engine. Unlike SEP 11, Sonar provides real-time protection. It is really able to convict on process launch, so it can start right away. Behaviors of applications are assessed as they happen, so instead of just being like, oh, hey, by the way, you got a virus like half an hour ago, it's like, well, thanks for telling me now. It's like you can actually react in real time. Users will be able to know it in real time. You'll be able to get notified in real time. It all happens right at the drop of a hat. There's improved support for file and registry protection, so if that's ever been a concern on your network, there you go. You can also use live update to keep your clients and your servers updated. You can have the SEP manager push those updates, or you can have the client individually update, which is kind of cool. Some more about Sonar. It expects many applications. It makes decisions based on behavior. This is kind of different than other technologies, is that they don't really use fingerprinting as much. It more says, hey, how does that file act? and how does it work with other files. And we like to say convictions are categorized into two buckets or groups. You have the high confidence group and the low confidence group. In the high confidence group, you say that a file is likely to be malicious, and the false positive rates are actually pretty low. In the low confidence group, it's pretty sure that the application is malicious, but you also have a higher false positive rate. We also have another mode that's called aggressive mode. It allows for low confidence detections. It just means that false positive rates are higher, but overall it is more secure. If an application does become convicted, SEP can take one of three actions, which is pretty common among antivirus, is quarantine, remove, and log. This should all sound very familiar. So I'm just going to show this real quick. I don't want to touch on it too much because I want to talk about it more during the demo. But here's a quick brief overview of Sonar settings. Again, we'll talk about it more later, but it should look pretty easy to navigate. You can see different, you have the tabs kind of at the top here. You can see different pages on the left side. Again, we'll touch on that more later as I get to the demo. So do like that no matter what, Sonar will show you A, suspicious behavior, and B, system changes. And it will allow you to act right then and there. You see you have two options. No matter what happens, it will show you, we have got suspicious behavior here on the left. It will allow you to block the file or allow the file to run. Again, it's very useful for the client side, is that they will just say, hey, there's something running and it stops it. You know, should I allow this or not? That's very handy. So here's one of my favorite parts of SEP 12.1 is download insight. I think this is seriously cool. First off, it's a technology that checks the reputation of binaries being downloaded and blocks them if they're reported as being bad. So it scans files as they're being downloaded, and we use a term, remediation, based on reputation, which is really cool. And again, I want to not touch too much on these two pictures here that much, just because, again, this is more for the demo. But you can see on the right side there, I like the executable that's running. It's a bad file. Obviously, if I saw that on a pop-up, I'd probably try to remove it from my system. But yeah, I do like that it does tell you right away what's going on. Well, we have scheduled scans. Again, not going to touch on this too much. This is more demo stuff. I just want you guys to see it and kind of put it in your memory and be able to save that for later. Be like, hey, I wonder how to get to that window. Well, hopefully we'll be able to run into that during the demo. Here's some advanced security policies. This is really cool. You can change, you can add locations based on IP address and host name. You see right here. It's just really cool. And then it will actually let you, you can put in ranges too. There's another way to add ranges policies based on IP address range. So you can just have certain portions of your network with different policies purely based on IP address. It's really, really nice. You can see across the board, you got PC Magazine, stuff like that, AV tests, and no matter what, you got Symantec. I don't know if you guys can see that well, but you got 96.2% over here are the real tests. The red number is the infected, and the green bar is the blocked. You can see no matter where we go, like all the green. Look at Symantec, it's awesome. And again, over here, overall it says, remediation score. If you guys need help there, it just says higher is better. So I think that's cool too. And this is one of my favorite graphs. I use this all the time, and I refer to it a lot to customers who wonder, hey, is Symantec the best for me? And it's like, well, ask PCMag what they think. And no matter what, Symantec products are what are the top 3 ratings. So it's not like, oh, one of our products is the top. It's like, look at the top 3 is all us. We got first, second, and third place. So one problem of the current kind of landscape here as far as deployments is it's really difficult and it's really slow. So we need to improve the controls of reboots. We also need to provide better visibility in the deployment area. The steps needed to install clients needs to be simplified. Continuous protection during the install needs to be provided. License renewals are a big deal. We need to be able to see when licenses need to be renewed and be notified. One tool needed for centralized discovery and client deployment or upgrade. So you need one kind of base area to go back to every time. You can't have a whole bunch of management consoles everywhere. So the solution is pretty much, again, we come back to Semantic Endpoint Protection, if you couldn't tell from the overall theme that we're going along here. You do have improved client installs. There's also an improved client deployment wizard. There's also many ways to deploy clients. If there's a firewall problem as far as deploying clients, you have many other options such as an email link or a web link, or very diverse ways of deploying clients. Those all improved reporting. We'll get into that a little bit, and notifications. We'll get more of that in the demo. There's also improved reboot management. So if you're having trouble with a client and you just need to reboot it, especially after a policy push through, you can say, hey, you know what, I'm going to push this policy, and as soon as the policy finishes downloading, how about we restart that guy? And of course, we also have license management. And again, that's all in one console. That's the SEP manager, or as we like to call it, the SEPM. Side-by-side install, getting a new folder. Customer can change install path during migration, which is also really interesting. And old software during migration is left unchanged until the next reboot. So if you're worried about there being a problem between deleting the old stuff and getting to the new stuff, it only happens during a reboot. We'll jump from the old to the new, which is again very. Here's what I was talking about. You have remote push, web link, and email, and save package right here on the left. If you look at this picture right here, the screenshot, and this is a typical client install from the SEPM. So this is pushing from the manager to the client side. I really like the web link and email idea. I think that was really cool. There's also remote push, which is what I usually use, especially in a lab setting. That's very convenient instead of having to go through each individual machine and pushing through your clients. You can, accepting the web link or the email on each individual client. It's like, hey, just make them all have it. Like they all have to take it, which is kind of sweet. You also have new and improved reporting technology here. If you can look closely here, you see a lot of what your problems are, like if there's any errors in the install. If you're rolling back any of your clients that have successfully installed since the last push, stuff like that. Very nice. I'm going to touch on this a little bit more later, just because again I don't want to bore you guys with the details. I'd rather show you guys what this stuff is. But just want to touch on this part kind of right here. Really quick, just the new notifications is licensing notifications if something's about to expire, client changes, updates and stuff like that. Overall client health. You'll actually see when I start my set manager for the demo is that it will tell me that 3 clients are not connected, and one of them needs an update. That's because I've specifically created a network where the 3 clients were turned off. So that's just going to kind of show you just that stuff right away. It's just like, hey, you need to get your stuff together. There's some clients that are having some problems, and you'll know right away. Right from the home screen, actually. It's kind of cool. Improved reboot management. When you push that client, you can tell if you want to delay the restart. If you don't even want to restart, you can change how the client restarts. Broken over here now, by the way, on the left side. Overall, we'd like to say that there is an improved administrative experience. Administrators do need a way to recover passwords. On a large enterprise level, there need to be a delegation to limit access to site administrators. The scalability definitely needed to be improved. Live update needed to be way faster. And ability to configure separate Mac and Windows Live Update setting in a single policy. I can show you guys that later too. We're actually talking about Mac and Windows policies in Download Insight during the demo specifically. And you can improve performance with scans. So the solution to the previous problems I was talking about is we have new intelligent administration. So you have improved password management, improved internet access control, and onto the blazing performance tidbit is there's improved scalability, there's improved live update, and of course improved performance. So pretty much across the board, there's improvements. So some password management enhancements. Let's talk about that. You can configure your password recovery options pretty easily, and you can also recover your passwords via email. Very convenient. Especially convenient if you're trying to if you're having trouble connecting via your desktop or laptop PC, and you want to have your password sent to your phone. Also a possibility, especially if email sent to your phone. So there's something here called granular access controls. You can see new site rights, grant limited admin rights per site. There's also new command rights and new policy rights. Basically, all this is saying is that as you get further down into your network, if you guys aren't familiar with the term granular access, it just pretty much means the further down you go from site to location and all that stuff, and you eventually get to the users. stuff like that. You have better controls over who has access to what. So all reporting is done by SSL by default, which is, of course, mine on security first here. IIS is replaced with Apache, which I thought was a good move. There's an easy launch for common tasks. So if you see here on the home screen, there's deploy set client, run live update, and protections, and protect product tour. I'm sorry. Interesting, you can target up to 80,000 clients per SEPM. You can improve your database efficiency through automatic maintenance. Again, a very nice feature. And the SPC integration via web services. I personally love the web services option. It's very convenient. Again, if you can't, if you don't have a manager, or if you want to be able to access the manager from anywhere, to have it remote into a machine every time you can access through your web browser. Some improvements to live update. There are some idle time issues, and there's been those have been updated in 12.1. You can also essentially configure your proxy settings. There's also separate, I know we talked about this earlier, but I want to hit on it again. There's also separate Mac and Windows Live Update settings in a single policy, so instead of having to create a separate policy settings for each individual OS, you can put them all into one operating system policy and just push it out. All right, so here's reputation optimized scanning. So you have traditional scanning here on the left side, and you start, let's say you start on the left to right and go bottom to top. So you just scan this file first, and then we'll go to this one, and then we'll go to this one. You just keep doing that, keep going down the line until finally you get to the top and you have all your files scanned. But with reputation optimized scanning, you always know from the start of a scan that a file is good or bad because it's already been scanned and reported as positive or a clean file. So you can see on the left side there, you can scan each individual file. Oh, hey, look, you found a bad one. Let's do it on the right side. You already know all the ones with the check marks are good, so why waste the time scanning them? Let's just start at the ones that we know, like this line at the top here. These are all new files, and look, we still found it. But we didn't have to go through all of these at the bottom first. On a typical system, 80% of active applications can be skipped. Now that's an average statistic, but I just think that number is pretty accurate about my first scan here on this machine when I first started using it was rather long. I still didn't use a lot of resources, but it just took a little while. But after that, almost every single time, I've never even noticed. I had only noticed that SEP has been performing a scan after the pop-up has come up, and I've not actually taken time to notice it. So I think that's a pretty cool feature. So talk about some scans here. If you see, kind of got cut off there, but this is the Symantec, and this is the Semantic Bar right here, and you can see that overall across the board that we, compared to our competitors, are very. Just look at the numbers. If you see the pass mark, if you report stuff, overall scan times are way better, and the performance is overall way better. Memory usage is the same thing. Compared to McAfee and Microsoft, Symantec Endpoint Protection uses 66% less than McAfee and 76% less than Microsoft. Oh, by the way, low numbers, like you can see Symantec over here, and some of you guys are probably like, Symantec has the lowest bar. Well, this is, we want a low bar here. This is kind of like playing golf. We don't want high resources. We want to be low. So sorry about the white slide here. I was trying to get some of the text to show up because these are all graphics. So again, some more stuff about virtual endpoints and the threat landscape overall. You can kind of see it like this one right here. Kind of the scan storm is on a virtual environment, bogging down all of the machines is a real hassle. And the problem starts with if you have a whole bunch of virtual machines all at the same time deciding to use system resources to scan, and it just becomes a huge problem. As you can see here, as the years go on, we see the virtual adoption is growing. We see the virtual trend going up. And while the physical environment is shrinking, it's still remaining strong. So we need a solution that applies to both our physical environment and our virtual environment. We need a solution that is kind of a hybrid and does both. And that's where SEP 12.1 comes in. First of all, it's built for virtualization. It's just a fun tool called the Virtual Image Exception. It allows customers to exclude files based on a baseline image from scanning. So you start with your first image. You say, hey, this is pretty much the base image we work with for every virtual environment or every virtual server. Just scan that and then add those files in as an exception, which is really sweet because that way you don't just scan files that are going to be on every system and you know it's good. There's also the shared insight cache. We'll talk about that a little bit during the presentation. It's a standalone server, and pretty much it just lets clients share their scan results. There's also this fun thing called virtual client tagging. It makes the client's virtualization aware and send back the hypervisor vendor to set them. So pretty much it just the data can be used in client searching and reporting. It's kind of a fun feature to use, very handy. There's also the offline image scanner. I think this is cool too. It's a standalone tool developed by Star. Pretty much it just scans an image that is offline on a VMware image, so pretty much a VMDK file. And you can just, so if you have trouble with a virtual server and you want to roll back, trying to figure out why, let's say like a web server or something's acting strange, you think it might be infected, you can maybe pull up a previous image, use that temporarily, maybe like just a VM that is a previous version of your first one, and then take the current one and scan it offline. Again, very handy. There's also scan randomization. I like to add download randomization into that as well. And pretty much they're both features that let clients pull at random times or servers pull at random times for downloads and start scans at random times within a certain window. And say, hey, sometime during this whole business, let's say between the hours of 8 a.m. and 8 p.m., you need to get scans in and you need to download new updates. And the reason for randomizing that is so all your clients, if you say maybe 100 VMs on one physical server, you say, hey, I need all you guys to update at noon. All those guys at the exact same time are going to start using the hardware resources on that one machine, and you can literally bring a whole network to its knees if some of those VMs are important because they're all going to crash. So more about the virtual image exception. It's a tool that gives administrators the ability to set exclusions for files in a virtual operating environment. Talk about that a little bit. It's only in the Enterprise Edition. It runs as a standalone application, doesn't require traditional install, so it's pretty much its own thing. There's the typical scan on the left side there, and that collects all the lists of all files found. So you always have to scan. Step one is always going to be scanning the entire system. Moving on to the second step, we see tools that collect the list of all files found. So now we have the files on a list. And that same tool locally whitelists all the files found on the client. So immediately all those files get an OK. So the administrator enables the exclusion or disables exclusions for being used. And that can all be done with the AV policy on-demand and auto-protect. Again, all features are not acceptable. And now we see on the step 5 here the optimized scanning. And we kind of saw the beginning and end of this, but now you kind of see the middle too, is now we can start at a different, we can start with the newest files that haven't been scanned yet, move on from there, and eventually your scans are going to be blazing fast. All right, I'm talking about shared insight cache. I'm going to touch on this just a little bit. It's Enterprise Edition only. It's not available in the Small Business Edition. It applies to all on-demand scans. It's user-initiated, scheduled scans, or admin-defined, so your administrator can start a scan. However, it does not provide auto-protect compatibility, so just be mindful of that. I also think it's something to point out is that data, second point from the bottom here, is data is keyed off of the file hash and definition versions. Latest definition version always wins. There's never a conflict. I'm going to leave some of this up for just a little bit if you guys want to take a peek at it, but overall it's in here, so when you guys get the slide deck, you can use this for reference. Virtual client tagging. Virtual client tagging is built into the SEP client. It works with VMware, ESXi. There's also Hypervisor for Microsoft and the Citrix Zen. Clients run this check on startup and reports the information back to a SEPM. The hypervisor information is provided in reports along with the virtual statuses, and properties is also searchable. That's very convenient, again, if you have something you're looking for specifically. Offline image scanner. It only does VMDK files. It can do NTFS, FAT32, that kind of stuff. There's also command line options for silent automated operation, and doesn't require a traditional install, which is great. It says the offline image scanner, but actually, if you're wondering, that's on the right side. It's a scan progress window screenshot. It's actually very close to what it looks like on the SEP client, on the individual endpoints. When it starts scanning, it's pretty insightful in case you've never seen it before. Or, if you're from an administrator standpoint, you might never see that on the client side, or always wonder what it looked like. And you can see some of the options you have for scanning the offline image scanner. Scan randomization. Pretty much like I talked about this a little bit, is there's scan randomization and download randomization. And what you pretty much do is you get into this edited scheduled scan window, and you can change all the settings here. You have scan until finished, all this stuff. You can also say scan up to 671 hours, which is pretty much just equal to about a month. And say once a month I want you to scan. Now that's a little outrageous. I'd say probably a week or daily you probably want to scan going. With virtual environments, this is very handy. You can say, hey, once every 23 hours for a daily or 167 hours for a weekly. Every week I want you to do a scan sometime during the week. I don't care when. Just by the end of Friday, I want a scan done. Something like that. One drawback to that is it's available on Windows clients only. So if your Windows network is, if your network is primarily Windows. All right, quick comparison to SEP 12.1 versus SEP 11 is, this is a great reason to update too if there was ever any questions. I actually have a close friend, he works in the medical, IT medical field, so he provides a lot of support to doctors and physicians and psychologists and the like. And one big thing is that they have a huge problem with losing their system to especially lower-end physical hardware systems, like laptops and stuff, to their scan times and watching their just their resources just drop and lose a lot of functionality that way. And he was leveraging a SEP 11 in their entire network, and I suggested, it's like, hey, have you looked at SEP 12? It's like, I don't even want to consider it. I said, well, give it a shot. And I sent him a demo video, and he called me later that afternoon. There's a 50 to 80% reduction in total disk I/O, so I really like that. It does show that Insight Cache isn't so much it's not what our product is, it does improve our product, though. I think it's really cool. There's also the virtual image exception, with and without. You can see with, and there's a 50 to 80% reduction in total disk I/O. And you can see, I like that phrase at the bottom. That's pretty much, if you can ignore that chart completely, the total benefit to a customer running 12.1 with virtualization features is an estimated 80 to 90% reduction in disk I/O for full scans as compared to 11, whatever version of 11. So just knowing that, it's really easy to convince people that SEP 12.1 is a way better product than SEP 11. All right, so let's move on to the demo real quick. So if you remember me talking about, there's some graphs and charts that really help you out. You can see that one of my clients is up to date out of the 4, and the reason that 3 of them are offline is because I just turned on the SEP. I'm like, even my domain controller and my virtual environment isn't even turned on. So if you see a few of these security status attention needed, it's not because of improper administrator, it's just because I turned a lot of stuff off for this demo. So let's go over to the client page here, and just to avoid confusion, we have these, I like to call these pages on the left side. Well, that's what a lot of security guys do here, is we refer to these as pages. Anything at the top here is a tab. So we also, just to make even things more confusing, we have a policy page, we have a policies tab. So just keep that in mind as we're following along here. So we're going to go to the client's page on the left side, and then at the top we're going to go to the policies tab. We're going to click on the virus and spyware protection policy. Something to note here is if you do this, and here I'm going to go back just so I can show you guys. The default group here, you see how inheritance is turned on right here. You can uncheck that box to turn it off. But if you try to change any of these settings inside a group that has inheritance turned on, you're going to get fun messages like this. Like, hey, you can't click anything. This policy is inherited from the group's parent. So modify the parent or turn off policy inheritance. So you know what? I'm not going to mess with this too much, and I can just revert back my settings. So let's go ahead and just go into the parent. It's probably not the best practice, but I just want to show you guys how this works. So it's really not big of a deal. Go ahead and hit edit shared whenever you click on any of these things. It's fine. We're going to go, let's do download protection first. So you can see right here I have my download insight set to high. And it only allows files if I have it set to high or even typical. If you follow along this description right here, is in the typical it says it doesn't have a poor reputation. So it can have a neutral to good reputation in the typical. I prefer to set it to high just because if you read that description, I prefer that's a lot more secure. It only allows files that trend towards a good reputation. So if it has a neutral or a so-so or negative reputation, it tends to block those. We also have what I like to call the hyper-paranoid mode. This is a little more crazy, extreme. If you really want to micromanage your network, this is, again, completely up to the administrators and how they end up deciding to protect their network. But overall, it only allows files to do an extremely good reputation. So if they misbehave like even once in some cases, or if they have one bad vote against them, it won't even allow that in. So like I said, that's kind of my hyper-paranoid mode. 6 and 7 are just, mild paranoid. I would highly recommend staying between the 6 and 7 range. 5 if you don't mind a few bad things getting through. We're talking about age and prevalence now. You can detect files as malicious just based on how old they are. Or like this. So you can say, let's say you check this check mark to see this text box open up, and anything older, as old as 3 weeks. 30 or 21 or fewer days. You can set up a detection for, and you can change it to any amount of days. You can change it to 60, and okay, cool. I just changed it to 60. You can also, you can change it to any number. You can change it to anything, any 3-digit number, pretty much. If you want to do a whole year, you can 365. You kind of get the idea there. We'll change it back to 21. I also like that you can say files with how many users. This is very handy. I like after a while it just says hundreds of thousands of, or you can get as little as 0. So if you don't care who's seen it, or if anybody's ever seen it before, there's your setting. Change that back to thousands now, just for personal reasons. All right. This is also a great setting. This is a huge note to keep on track. Is automatically trust any file downloaded from an intranet website, which pretty much just means that if your internal network, like if you're an administrator and you want people to be able to download certain files from your, say, a file share from the intranet, you can turn that on, and it will just automatically say like, oh, hey, I know that's coming from internally. I don't want to block that. Go ahead and let it through. And as an administrator, that can be really frustrating. Your antivirus and threat reduction is suddenly saying, hey, none of my files can get through. That's so awesome. Let's take a look at actions real quick. Actions for malicious files. This is pretty simple. You can either delete the risk on first response or quarantine the risk. You can also have the option of leaving the risk alone. A quick note here is if you leave the risk alone, you see your second action is automatically grayed out just because it assumes you don't want to do anything. So why would you, it's almost always going to, like, how is that going to fail? So why would you have the second action? Another quick note, if you click quarantine, delete and leave alone are your only other options. Same thing if you pick delete. Quarantine is your only option. You can't do delete, or try to, get it twice or anything like that. If the first one doesn't work, then, it has to move on to a second option that actually is feasible. For unproven files, there's also options here. Same basic thing, delete, quarantine, leave alone. You can also prompt and say, hey, what do you want to do? And then, feed you the file name and all that stuff. Or you can simply just ignore it every time. It doesn't even log it that way either. Notifications, I thought this was cool. If you leave this text, this check mark filled in, you can change what this message says. So you can say, oops, you broke it. And you can say, admin. You can change it to whatever you want. You can change it to nonsense. I mean, it's really up to you. Maybe your IT department wants to have a specified message there. But that's just another option for administrators. Another thing to note is if you try to exit out without changing that, that makes you fill something in. Change it out, hit OK. Let's go check out exceptions. I'm going to go to edit shared again. I'm here. We're going to go ahead and try to add an exception. This is really cool. I talked about having Mac and Windows exceptions. So here, let's try adding a Mac exception first. Let's look at the prefix available. Let's go ahead and add a library exception. Let's see what stuff to run from a music folder uninhibited. Let's go ahead and add music. As you see here, we got a lot of wildcards and stuff in here. Very handy, and I'll tell you what platform it's running on, the policy that's for. Well, let's do a Windows exception next, because I think these are, you obviously see a lot more options there. We only got one Mac exception. Let's look at the Windows exceptions. Let's look at the file type. Let's say anything that runs in Windows. So you step out of there again. Now we're going to go to the risk log next, because I want to show you guys how to, if a risk gets flagged, how to remediate it or how to deal with that accordingly. So we're going to go to the monitors page on the left side here, and we're going to change this to risk and hit view log. All right, and we don't have any entries here because the two examples, the two policies we set up in there, didn't catch anything obviously because it was an example, or we don't have any. Like I said, I don't have any clients running. But let's just say that they did. Now you can change how many entries are displayed if you want to have like the last 1,000 risks or something. Now if you notice this risk right here, I'm sorry, this drop-down action list, you can change how the exceptions or the risks are dealt with. You can add files and risks to your exceptions policy, the stuff we were just in. You can also add folders the same way. Sorry, this keeps disappearing on me. It also does the same thing with web domains. Trust and allow. Also very very convenient right there. You can also change what you're viewing there. You can view just by applications. So you see files and folders and stuff like that. You can view just by web domains if you're having trouble with certain domains giving you viruses or anything like that, malicious software. We're going to talk about some sonar settings here real quick, and then I'll talk about some global scan options using Insight, stuff like that in a second. So you see here, you can, if you feel uncomfortable using sonar, if you feel like it's not just relevant to your organization, you can always just opt to turn it off. Just click that button and turn the whole thing off. I don't know why you do that, but it is an option. In case you ever wonder what sonar is, if you want the semantic explanation, feel free to. If you see low risk detection, this is kind of cool. You can treat how you use that, or what your system does with that. You can disable. You can see that kind of gray out there. We talked about aggressive mode. Remember that? So you have your low risk detection and how to react to that, and again, you have your reactions right here for high risk detection. And when a detection is found, you can show alerts, or you can prompt if you want to terminate the process or not. You can also prompt before stopping a service, which is also very convenient. I would highly recommend turning this stuff on. If you see a DNS change or a host file change, this is just behavior detection, high risk detection. You have the same thing here, prompt, ignore, block. Most of the options are usually the same for any of these drop-down boxes. Let's move on to Insight stuff. Now, I think this is really cool. Again, you can just turn Insight off completely. I would say always enabling for Symantec, of course, is key. But you can also use the community trusted. Just means that people who have already been scanning are known scans besides just Symantec, what the whole Symantec community knows outside of what the company does. It makes things a little more accurate. You can also add a password for security scanning for network drive. So if you have a network drive that you're worried about security for, you can add exceptions that way. I'm sorry, you can add a password if you're worried about that network drive having trouble, or if you don't want to have a password. I'm sorry, a scan running a network drive. But overall, I think we hit everything that I wanted to really touch on. Hopefully, we've given you guys a good overview of how SEP works and some features that would really help you guys move forward and get your network more secure. If you guys have any questions or want to contact me, my information. If you have any questions, my name is Matthew Schwartzma, and again, there's my contact information there. Feel free to call or email me anytime during business hours. I'll be sure to respond very quickly. Thank you for listening, and I hope you guys have a great day.